Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Pop Anime Comics here from PopAnimeComics.com and the Pop Anime Comics Lounge podcast. And my Instagram is Pop Anime Comics. And as many people know, I'm a big comic book collector and I'm a big Pop Funko collector. So I figured it's time that I broke down some of my Pop Funko collection and provided insight into what my collection is worth, what the estimated values are, as well as give an analysis on why it's worth that and trends, and really for the sole purpose of education and really helping everybody understand what they have in their collection, what is going to be bigger, what is already big, so that if you go to a con or you're purchasing it or you're finding it on eBay, you have an idea of what you're purchasing. And so obviously we've been going through some Star Wars Pop Funkos right now, and we're going to continue with that trend with the 44-second Clone Trooper from 2017 Galacticon. So Galacticon is a Star Wars convention. I believe it takes place in Florida. It's very, very cool. And it's dealing with Star Wars, new Star Wars, old Star Wars. A lot of cool stuff happens at that convention. News breaks out. And it's kind of one of the bigger cons in the United States. And so they have exclusives. And those exclusives can be picked up at that con. But more importantly, they can be picked up at several different locations. GameStop has some. I believe that FYE had some, which is where this one is from. Hot Topic had several, and those are shared exclusives. So this came from FYE, and it's very interesting how this has moved as a Pop Funko and price-wise. So when it first came out, this one was very sought after. And I think part of the reason why it was sought after, and I'm going to get to value in a second, but I think it's important to understand that this was sought after because it was only available on FYE. And FYEs, from my understanding, not everybody has one around them. And I used to live in New York, and the closest FYE is about 40 miles away. And there used to be an FYE about 5 miles away from my house when I was in New York, and now it's 40 miles away. And luckily, I live in another area of the country, and in that area, they have an FYE, a Hot Topic, a GameStop, a Target, all in the same mall. So I think that's part of why this thing was valued when it first came out. Within about a week, it was about $44 was selling on eBay. And in some areas and some prices, it's still in that range. And I think it's primarily because it was at FYE and that was the only place you could get it. And so I think that speaks a lot to its value, because FYEs are not as common as Hot Topics, GameStops, Targets, Walmarts, which have other exclusives. Barnes & Nobles have exclusives. And so that's something to keep in mind. And so its low is about $19.99. Its high is $34.99. And its estimated value, according to Pop Funko Price Guide, which is where these numbers come from in the last 30 days, is $28. And I think part of why it's maintained its $28 off of a $15 pop is because it is hard to find. And it was really hard to find in FYE. And not because FYE got a few of them, it's because there aren't that many FYEs, and in some areas of the country there's a bunch of FYEs, and in others there is not. And so I think that's what really helps this value. Also, just to talk a little bit about the 44-second Clone Trooper, what is interesting about this one in particular is that this was not in the movies, it was part of Clone Wars, and so it hasn't been commercialized like the rest of the other Pop Funkos in Star Wars have been. In Star Wars Rebels and other things, this really hasn't been pushed into any commercial project as of yet. And so I think that's the other thing, is that it's kind of the ground floor as far as a Pop Funko, where this is the first big push. The only other major push that it's occurred, it's obviously been in Clone Wars. They've been in a few significant battles. But the other push is that it's been in LEGO. And in the LEGO games, it's been very interesting to see it. There's a few LEGO minifigs. That's the only other real commercial push for it. So when you look at Han Solo, you look at Luke Skywalker, you look at C-3PO, you look at R2-D2, you look at Finn, Rey, those have had major commercial pushes as far as toys and in the movies. This really hasn't, and I think that's adding a lot of value to it, because this is kind of one of the bigger commercial pushes, and the fact that it's a convention exclusive it helps it, and it's kind of the ground floor right there. And so I think that's part of it. And I think that's part of why this one maintains value, is partially because it hasn't been commercialized, and it's a new territory, and it's the Clone Wars. And the Clone Wars TV show is really, really popular, and people really, really appreciate the fact that it's there. And while it's sort of canon and it's sort of not, and this is a point where Disney obviously has their name attached to this, and this is after Disney bought Star Wars, it's also a symbol in many ways that certain things are canon. Disney, in many ways, by putting their name on the back of it, right next to StarWars.com, is kind of saying that this is a bit canon. I believe Clone Wars is canon, and so it's kind of nice to see this symbol of what people like being part of the main Star Wars franchise. And it's a reassurance piece in many regards. Much like the Han Solo, this kind of acts as a reassurance saying we're not going to mess up Star Wars here, where we understand where the value is and where it sits nicely. So that's something to keep in mind with this. And I just think it's hard to find when it first came out. And obviously its value has depreciated from when it first came out, which sometimes happens. But even with that, it's still pretty cool. It's a nice one. It's similar to the 41st Clone Troopers. And I think that also helps its value, where it's similar to something that exists that is commercialized. And so, but it's different at the same time. So it's not, and I think that that's the thing, is that it's similar and has similar features as the 41st Battalion does with the Clone Troopers, but it's different. It's obviously green, and that's something that's interesting about this also, that I like, that I think kind of says, okay, you got something similar, it's cool, but it's also different. And this is differentiating itself from the norm and something that is heavily commercialized. And I think that helps really keep it at a nice point. So I'm not going to go say buy it or sell it. Star Wars Pop Funkos are the trickiest ones out of the bunch. And primarily they are tricky because it is very hard to figure out what is going to be popular, why it's going to be popular, how it's going to be popular. And at the same time, when they first come out, point in case with this one is that it was $44 on eBay, and now you're looking at an estimated value of $28 is what its true value is. And so for the first month of when it came out, it was highly sought after. And if you were one of those people that said, oh man, I gotta have it, it's $45 and it's just gonna go up, it's really not. And that's the thing about Star Wars. I think this is a really, really good case study on it, where sometimes things get hyperinflated very, very quickly, and they become very, very expensive, and then they settle down a bit. And sometimes you have Star Wars Pop Funkos that just skyrocket up, and then sometimes you don't. And so it's tricky with this, because it could very well go down, and it could go back up, and it obviously has reached the point where I think it's going to be worth more than $15 of what you paid for it if you picked it up. But do I think it's going to have an estimated value of $50? I'm not going to go there, because I don't think this is a $50 estimated Pop Funko value. I think maybe $35 in a year is doable, but I don't think $50 is. It's the same thing with the Han Solo in the last video. I don't think that has the potential to go back up to what eBay prices are going, and this concept of fear of missing out plays in, and I don't think that's a real indicator of what this is worth. I think, $30 estimated value is reasonable. If you can unload it for $30, I would pay $30 for it if I really wanted it, and I was a Star Wars Pop Funko collector. It's not preposterous. So if you're looking for it, if you can get it for like $25 or $30, I mean, that's pretty reasonable. And so I don't think you'll lose money at $30, because I think that at some point it will reach $40, maybe in 3-4 years. But at the same time, it could also go down. And so with Star Wars Pop Funkos, they are very, very tricky to handle and to purchase and to pick up and buy, because some of them go up and some of them go down. And obviously, I have two more to talk about in my collection for the time being before I move on to another, I guess, area of the Pop Funko realm. And we're going to see how those prices go. And they're going to be interesting because they are not the Star Wars Black Label, which is something also is interesting. Star Wars Black Label, where it just says Star Wars. So there's the Star Wars Rebels, there's the Star Wars Clone Wars, there's Star Wars Force Awakens, there's Star Wars Blue Labels, there's Star Wars White Labels. The Black Labels tend to do better than the others for the most part. And so that also is something to look out for with Star Wars, is that Star Wars Black Labels tend to do better unless it's some exclusive or it's a limited piece or it's part of another convention that's hard to get to or that has something to do with somebody else and is very exclusive. But typically the Star Wars Black Labels are the ones that are more desirable because it's just more generic. And it's kind of just Star Wars, and anything else just sort of waters down the brand name. Where when you put Rebels or you put the Blue Label there, or you put, Star Wars Clone Wars or The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi, you start to water down the brand. And it's cool to have those specific titles, but when you just look and stare at this, it says Star Wars, and that's all encompassing. And it's nicer, it's simpler, and it doesn't cheapen the brand, which I think also helps with the value. So that's really what it is. I think it's really cool. It's a nice Pop Funko. And again, these are really nice from Galacticon in general because they come with like a base plate. So it's very statuesque. And I think that also helps where it's just a nice Pop Funko in general. I mean, this is a nice Pop Funko to have. And so I think that's the other thing that helps with it. So that's this Pop Funko. And that's really my entire take on it. And I hope this helps you because that's what the whole point of this is I'm trying to help everybody in this community who collects Pop Funkos, and there's a lot of people out there, to just give advice, go through things, explain what estimated worth is, so that you have an idea that if you're looking for it and somebody's selling it, you have an idea of what its value is, and you can make an educated decision what price I want to pay, or if I want to make an offer, or if I'm going to pass because this is outrageous. And that there's 10 other Pop Funkos that are in my budget. So that's the whole point of this, because I believe it is up to us in the community as fans, and given that this is kind of my background of economics with pop collectibles and collectibles in general, Pop Funkos and collectibles in general, to educate people and to give people information so that they can have a better experience purchasing these types of items and at some point unload them and make some money with it. So that's the whole point of this. So if you really like what I do, you can, right now I don't have any affiliate links. They might or might not be coming, so be on the lookout for it. But for the time being, I have no affiliate links in these videos. Not to say that that will never happen, and if I do, I will make sure that I try to get everybody good deals on possibly purchasing Pop Funkos. Might be something up in the air with that. But if you'd like to support what I do, please follow me on Twitter at PopAnimeComics. Check out the website, PopAnimeComics.com. Check out the Facebook page. Might have some cool contests coming in the next few weeks on there on Facebook Live, so check that out. It's Pop Anime Comics. Instagram, if you want a sneak peek of all my Pop Funkos that I put up, definitely check that out, because every Pop Funko I put up will get a video at some point, and I have over 100 of them up there, so we're not that far into these videos. So if you want a sneak peek of what's coming down the pike, that's the place to go. And anything that's Pop Anime Comics, including the Pop Anime Comics Lounge, definitely check that out, because that's how you support people, by supporting what they do, checking out, giving a listen, follow them on Twitter, all that jazz. And if I owe you money, I don't know you, and I'm going to pretend that I'm just going to ignore you. And I have a clone trooper right here protecting me, and he has a gun. So I feel safe. So you can talk to him, and he shoots on command. Because unlike Han Solo, he takes orders very, very well to shoot on command. So I feel safe. He's protecting me, Gotta have protection in life. Just ask, the Empire. They get their protection from some obscure planet making clones. I mean, that's the way we do things. And that's the way we do things here at this channel. We have a clone trooper from the 44nd Clone Trooper Brigade. And they are a tough brigade to mess with. So they're protecting me. So if I owe you money, talk to him. Anyway, in all seriousness though, thank you for watching. It's always appreciated. And I cannot wait to see you in my next video. And I really do hope these videos help, because that's the whole point of this. And that's what I'm aiming for here. So thank you so much for watching. And I look forward to hearing from everybody, because I'm more than happy to answer any questions, talk about this, because that's the whole point of this. And until next video, everybody have a wonderful day, week, or whatever you're doing. And I will hopefully see you in my next video.